We're so curious because you're from Alabama.
That's what I want to get
Yes.
to. Your origin, right?
Yes.
So can we start there?
Yes.
Because you were born, like Christina said, in where in Alabama?
Down by Tuskegee.
Yeah, okay, Tuskegee. And you were born in
Eufaula area.
weren't you born
midway.
on a plantation?
I was born and raised on a plantation. I worked the plantation.
You worked the plantation.
And my parents worked it, their parents worked it, and their parents worked it until I left there.
So
Isn't that amazing?
that is
That's
amazing. So,
amazing.
but I would imagine that experience shapes your perspective a bit, right?
Absolutely.
So it would be common sense to then say that your grandparents and your great grandparents were slaves
Yes.
on that
I'm
plantation.
sure somewhere down, they never really talked about it, so I don't know.
Yeah.
But I do know that my grandparents, my grandmother's father was killed. He used to run the plantation that I grew up on.
Mm-hmm.
And he was like a tough guy. You know, he did his own thing. And so there was a black guy that was fired from another plantation, and my great-grandfather hired him. And the people from that plantation, the whites, came over and said, "You can't hire this guy." He's like, "No, I'm hiring him anyway. I'm doing what I want to do." And he hired him. So they came in the middle of the night to try to kill him, my great-grandfather. But he had a gun under the bed, so he ran them off. And then they came another night, and they were able to kill him because his wife, he went for his gun, and the wife moved the gun away from the bed, from underneath the bed. And they were like, "Well, why did you move the gun?" "Well, I didn't want him to do the wrong thing with the gun." I rest my case.
Women.
Broads.
Yeah. Fucking.
Fucking dipshits.
Every time you listen to the woman, you will suffer.
Yeah.
And
Thank you.
so-
Yeah, that's a good
And
quote.
so they were able to kill him. But the one great thing about growing up on the plantation, we had family, we had grandparents. We were taught to work from day one.
Mm-hmm.
And they told us, the males, that when you turn 18, you're out of here. I remember them telling me that when I was 18. I mean, before I was 18, on a plantation now. I'm like, well, where am I going? And my grandparents said, "I don't know. I don't care. You're leaving here at 18. But they taught me to work. They taught me to be responsible for me. And so when I turned 18, I left. I finished
Is that
high
when you
school.
went to LA? Or
I
no?
went to Indiana. I got a job for 1 week. 2 weeks. I made a paycheck, and I moved to LA.
It's that long? Okay. So, but
Well,
I mean,
hold on. Let's back up with life on
Yeah,
the
sure.
plantation.
Yeah.
What's life like for you? How old are you when you start working? Are they mean to you? Do they hurt you? I mean, I've seen the movies. I don't know. Is that what it's like?
No, it was amazing.
amazing in a
What?
good way?
In a good way.
Working in the plantation was?
Yes.
I think that would be probably a big surprise for most people to hear.
And why? I
Why?
know because they lie about the
They
way
lie
things
about it.
were, right? But when I was growing up on plantation, it was no different than going to work for the adults, and we would go to school.
Mm-hmm.
And because we lived on this farm, I would have to get up in the morning and go out to the pasture and bring the cow in, the cows, and milk the cows. And
So it's
then-
like farm life to you.
Yes. And then I would go back home and get ready to catch the school bus down the road at 7 a.m. The parents would get up and go to work.
How old are you when you're doing this?
When I started milking and taking care of about 15.
Oh, okay.
Oh.
Yeah.
14, 15.
so you're like high
But
school
prior
age.
to that, I had been picking cotton because when we got out of school, we would go home and take off our school clothes and go to the fields and work the fields.
How old are you when you're picking cotton?
6, 7, 8.
Wow, that's
9,
very
10.
young.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it was fun. It wasn't like,
It was fun.
right.
How many hours a day are you
Because you
picking
got
cotton?
paid for it too.
Okay,
Oh.
yeah.
You got paid.
How long? So
as
you're
a
6 years
kid-
old. You come home from kindergarten, and then how long are you picking cotton for when you get home?
Until 4 or 5. I don't remember exact time, but we would, of course, go home at a reasonable time
Yeah.
and get ready for school.
So is this because you're born in the 40s or
49?
49?
Yes.
So you're like, this is the late 50s. You're already working the fields.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And I mean, most people's perspective on Alabama in the 50s and 60s is not like a flattering one, you know?
But they're lying to you.
Really?
Yeah.
How was it?
For me, it was like a kid growing up. You know,
Yeah.
I didn't have a negative impression of it. I went to school. I ran track, you know, in high school, so I would go to the track and field.
But you went to a
games.
segregated school, I'm assuming.
Right.
Yeah? And that didn't feel weird to you that you weren't
Not at
allowed?
all. Not at all, because, you know, I was with my friends. It was people. It wasn't like, and I knew that there were whites only schools and blacks only. I remember
You think segregation was good?
it was neither good nor bad. It was a way of life.
But is
And
it good that it ended?
No.
No.
It would have ended on its own. It wasn't good that it was forced in it, because they're trying to make people love you. You can't make someone love you.
Right.
You know, you either a decent person. We were taught not to hate whites or anyone, right?
Yeah.
To treat everyone the way that we would like to be treated, and that was in my mind, and that's all we knew. And so we treated all people the way that we would like to be treated.
What if we had
didn't have
segregation?
hatred.
What if we had segregation today?
We do have it.
We like unofficially, you mean?
Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, look at the blacks. They don't want to graduate with the whites. They don't want to live in the same dormitories as the whites. They don't want to live. If you move into their neighborhood, they call it something
Gentrification?
something like that. Yeah.
Yeah.
So you have it now because human beings hate one another.
Yeah.
And there's not the concept of loving, treating each other the way you would like to be treated.
So you
because
don't-
during those days, those white people were not against, all white people were not against black people. It was more of a government thing, you know.
But did you ever like encounter some pretty racist whites in that era? Like in the 50s in Alabama? There had to be a few, right?
If I wasn't aware of it.
Really?
It was happening, no. Because when I would go to downtown with my family sometimes, my grandfather used to put us on the back of a truck. He had this big truck, and he put all the grandkids and everyone in the truck, and we all go to town sometime. I wasn't treated bad. It was happening. I just was not aware of it. My friends were not aware of it. My cousins.
Because you're so young and
Yeah. Even as a teenager, they integrated my high school the last year that I was there in 1968. But the teachers that came, the white teachers, they brought different things, you know, that we were not doing prior. It was just fun to do.
Yeah.
And so it wasn't, things didn't get bad for the blacks until they started that so-called civil rights movement. The worst thing.
Wait, why is it so
worst
called? Wait,
thing,
why is it a so-called civil rights movement?
because there is no such thing as civil rights. And the worst thing that ever happened to the blacks,
Yeah.
other than abortion, was the civil rights movement.
That was the worst thing that happened to
Wait,
the blacks?
why are there no? Let's back